Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video version of my Tech Guy show. Now, the Tech Guy show is 6 hours a week, and we didn't want to give you a big 6-hour download, so we've got a cut down available for you. If you want to hear all 6 hours, listen to the audio. But for the video, you just get the best of. What you're about to see was performed and recorded on Saturday and Sunday, November 6th and 7th, 2010. Originally aired on the Premier Radio Networks and live.twit.tv. This is episode 715 and 716. Enjoy. What the heck is going on in the digital revolution? I'm here to tell you. I'm here to help you. I do it every day, every weekend day at this time. Now, let me tell you what's coming up, because we have a great guest in studio with us, a guy who joins us every week on the show for just a few minutes, but he's going to be here for the entire show. So we are going to talk home theater today. This is our home theater day, so I'll tell you that up front. So when you call 8888 to ask Leo, the phone number 888-827-5536, we're looking for home theater calls, in particular for Scott. I mean, I can answer some other stuff maybe, but hey, when you have a guy like Scott Wilkinson in the studio with you, editor-in-chief of the Ultimate AV magazine, columnist for Home Theater magazine, when you have a wizard like this man, and sometimes he even wears the wizard hat, you got to take advantage of it. So give us a ring and let's talk about home theater. Before we get to that, Scott, I am going to mention briefly, because I played with it for the last couple of days. My Kinect came. Yeah, this is the new Microsoft gaming controller. I actually bought the whole new Microsoft Xbox 360 because the new one that bundled with the Elite has a connector for the Elite. It also has Wi-Fi built in, and I got the 250 gigabyte hard drive because you can copy games to the hard drive. You still need the disk to, validate it, but you can play off the hard drive, which does speed things up. It also helps with the scratches, which I seem to get. In any event, I got the new one, got the Kinect, set it up. It took a while to set up. I have to say, and I think I understand why. This is a whole new way of controlling a game, and they need to do a little training, So you connect as a bar. It's about, I'd say about a foot wide and only about 3 inches tall. It's got 3 sensors on it. It looks like 3 cameras. They're not, but I'll tell you what they are in a second. And you put that bar they say, either 2 feet above the ground or 6 feet above the ground. Those would be the best. You can put it in between, but it'd be the best either, in other words, on top of the TV or below the TV. And that's where I put it, below the TV. They said the closest you can get to 2 or 6 feet, the better. And the reason is that thing has a camera in it, a sensor in it. It also has an infrared emitter, I guess. Yeah, because it's measuring your position in space as well as, your outline, your profile. In fact, as you set it up, you'll see that it can see your outline. It can see the room. It actually has voice control in it as well. And one of the setup takes a while. Among other things, you set up the voice control. But then after, it took me about an hour to get it all set up, and then I started playing a game. And was immediately elbowed out of the way by my 16-year-old son, who said, "You're a loser. Let me try this." And I couldn't get him off it for the rest of the evening. So I've only I only played a little bit of the game. It comes with an adventure, Kinect Adventures game, which is river. There's river rafting. There's an obstacle course. There's some weird stuff, and it's pretty, like popping balloons and plugging leaks, which he hated. He said, "Why am I plugging leaks? This is boring. This is like a job." And I said, "Well, I think what they're doing, and I think this is the case, is they're training you on getting used to the idea of using your body instead of a controller. So you're in a glass. This is a stupid game, but you're in a glass phone booth, and fish keep ramming into it and plugging and putting holes in it, and the water starts leaking in, and you have to touch the edges, front, left, right, or floor, to plug the holes. And sometimes you have 4 or 5 things. In fact, at one point you had to use your head, both hands, and both feet to plug all 5 holes.
Well, that's kind of a clever way to define the boundaries. Exactly.
It's teaching you. I realized this. And he said, "This is really boring." I said, "Well, do it anyway, because I think what you're doing is learning kind of the language of Kinect, because we're not used to using our bodies to play a game."
Well, with Wii, you've got that has an accelerometer in it. You can tell how it's moving in space, right?
But this is your whole body, and that's what's really interesting about this. Yeah, clearly Microsoft, and by the way, Sony has a Move controller, which is much more like the Wii. I mean, it's really the same idea as a Wii.
Yeah.
The Microsoft Kinect is very different. It's sensing your whole body in space, and it really was a lot of fun. You know, I've ordered a dancing game. That this looks kind of fun where you're
dancing Leo.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, there is a camera in this, and the camera can take pictures of you during the game. Every once in a while, the camera icon will flash up on the screen, and I learned what it's doing is taking a picture of you. At the end of the game, it shows you in really absurd, sometimes obscene, mostly absurd positions. You know, reaching and jumping, and then they have cute captions along with it, and you can share those, by the way, on Xbox Live. I have to say, this was a lot of fun. We got a Wii and played with it for a while, very briefly, and got bored with it pretty quickly. The Wii Sports is really fun, but, you know...
like bowling and
stuff. And there is a sports game you can get with this, but I think because it's the whole body, it's going to be much more engaging. I have to say, it's much more work. You work up a sweat, but this time you're jumping, you're leaping, you're ducking. It sees your motion. You know, in fact, it's kind of funny when you bend over to pick up something, you see it, your avatar on the screen bends over and picks up something. It really mirrors you. Henry was complaining now. He's 16. He's got fast reflexes, a little bit about latency. And this is a problem with these devices. They have to, recognize you, recognize your body, figure out where you've moved, reflect it on the game, and ideally all do that within a millisecond or two so it doesn't feel like there's lag. This feels very fast, faster than the Wii or the Move, yet... He was complaining about lag a little bit. Yeah, the other thing you should be aware of is it takes a lot of room. We had to move furniture. You're standing 6 to 10 feet away from your TV. It takes over the living room. So we had to move the coffee table out of the way. In fact, I'm thinking of moving all the furniture out of the living room because then it will be much more fun and much less dangerous. You don't want to bark your shins on your coffee table while you're dancing or running or jumping. I think some games will not translate well. There's a driving game, and I think you have fewer controls. Really, all you can do is steer, leap, and lean, and so you don't have control of gears and so forth. I wonder if first-person shooters like Halo will be much fun. I doubt it. Maybe. I'll have to see. Lucas apparently is preparing a lightsaber game to go with this, which might be kind of cool. I know you're a Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Jennifer liked it a lot. Henry liked it a lot. I think we'll be using it. Now I'll let you know once we get the dancing game. Jennifer's very excited about the dancing game. I don't know why. I think she wants to see me make a fool of myself. So latency could be an issue in first-person shooters. Certainly not for a dancing game. It is a little bit with the action games like jumping, but it's fun. And I tell you what, it's exercise. It does get people off the couch and into the game, and maybe that's not such a bad thing.
No, I think that's probably a good thing.
A good use of your big screen TV. You will want a big screen TV for this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because you want to be life size.
You were doing 60-inch Kuro?
Yeah, that was just about right.
Yeah.
Although, I need another 10, 15 feet to back up.
Right.
Obviously, you'll have to be careful, as with the Wii. We heard reports very early on that people had accidentally thrown the nunchuck or the Wiimote at the screen and broke it. In fact, they shortly after the Wii came out, started offering free wrist straps for owners, and really do encourage you to wear the wrist straps. Well, there's no wrist strap here because it's your body. There's no controller here. It's just you. On the other hand, if you got a little overexcited and ran into the TV, it would probably be worse than if you just threw a nunchuck at it. They do tell you if you get too close to the TV, it says, back up, back up, back up. I mean, it really does let you know.
Wow.
And I'm sure that's why. You're really supposed to use it fairly distant. Jay Howe's asking in the chat room if you could use it with a projector. I think, well, of course you could, but you'd be in the way of the projector beam because you're standing right in front of the TV. You could use it with a rear projection, or I guess if you had the projector over your head aiming down, but that wouldn't be a good idea, would it, Scott? Because you'd get weird parallax.
Yes, you don't want to get too far out of center because, you get something called keystoning.
Keystoning.
Right.
I mean, they correct for it, but still, I don't think that's ideal.
Yeah, but you don't want to use that. This I say all the time. If you're using a front projector and you have it off center and you're at a weird angle and the geometry of the picture isn't right, you can correct it electronically, but you lose a lot of resolution, you lose a lot of detail. It's not a good idea.
Scott's here to answer your questions. Get your home theater questions ready. The very first question we will answer when we come back at about 20 after is going to be plasma or LCD. We'll just get that out of the way, right?
Right
away.
It's gonna
well,
be
Lisa, my boss out here is buying a new big screen TV, and she wants to know.
We were talking about that.
She wants to know what to get, and she originally said plasma because I think she'd heard us talk about how much we like plasma. But I said, you ought to look at the LCD. So we'll get the definitive answer from the man. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536 from the Ultimate AV Magazine. Scott Wilkinson is here to answer your questions. We will do it all show long. If you have to have a technology question that's not home theater answered, you can call in. And Rebecca will, we can take a couple of those, but really, I really want to focus on the home theater questions. This is a chance, really, for people to get their questions answered. 888-827-5536. Also, we have a website, great website, and a chat room. Now, the website is techguylabs.com. James DeRuvo, who keeps those show notes, is a scoutmaster. He's out on a scout camping expedition right now, so the notes won't be updated till later in the weekend, probably after Sunday. But you can still go to that webpage, techguylabs.com. Click the chat link there if you'd like to get in our chat room. Lots of great people. It's always a lot of fun in the chat room. You can also see live video of the show. And since Scott's in studio with me, rarely, usually you sound the same, but usually you're on Skype, not in studio.
That's right.
So to have you sitting right here is a little disconcerting for me. I can see the back of your head. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun being here.
It's kind of fun when people come in. We have an open studio. We have visitors almost every day. We actually have somebody visiting from Burbank today.
In fact, my hometown.
Yeah. And it's kind of neat because he works in television.
Yeah.
He's put the prompter up so I can read it. And now I know what to say from now on. When people come in into the studio, I think they often say, this is very disconcerting because I'm 3D.
You're
Not
real
only
3D.
I'm no longer a disembodied voice, and you can see the back of my head. It's weird. Real 3D. Scott Wilkinson, home theater, coming up. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, with me. Scott Wilkinson, our home theater wizard. He's going to be here all 3 hours answering your home theater questions.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun.
We still haven't decided plasma or LCD. I think there is no right answer, is there?
No, there isn't. It depends on your circumstances.
But is plasma more expensive?
No.
It's not.
Generally not.
For the same size screen?
Yeah. LCD used to be more expensive, then it achieved price parity, and then LED backlights or edge lights, as we were talking about earlier, brought the price back up. But I'd say they're comparable. They're not tremendously different in price.
Would you recommend 3D? I do notice 3D TVs cost a little bit more.
They do. Now, that costs a little bit more, and I was talking with Lisa about it, and
she's a sports fan.
Yes, and she's a Comcast subscriber. And Comcast is one of the 3 carriers that now carries 3D content, particularly ESPN 3D. So she might very well want that. Another reason to get 3D TV, even if you're not interested in 3D, is that 3D TVs are typically the premium models. And so they're going to actually be better performers on 2D content. So even if you don't want to watch 3D, I might recommend getting a 3D TV because it's going to be a better performer on 2D content.
Right.
We were talking over lunch yesterday about this, and some of my friends were saying, 3D market penetration for 3D TVs is going to be in the single digits in 5 years.
That's nothing.
It's just nothing. And another guy said...
And if you don't have penetration that's at least 50%, I don't think you get a lot of content.
That's right.
I mean, there are movies being made in 3D, but you got to have a market or you're not going to do it. Look at Lucas. George Lucas didn't put Star Wars out on Blu-ray until just now because he said we did it too early on DVD and we didn't sell enough copies. So we waited until there was critical mass. There were enough Blu-ray players for us to do it. And I think that the same thing's going to happen with 3D. You'll see a lot of people say, well, we could put Avatar out 3D. Actually, they did.
They did, or they will.
Yeah, but and that's mostly I think Jim Cameron's really pushing 3D.
Really pushing. Well, a lot of the studios and manufacturers are too. And another guy in our conversation...
Manufacturers, I understand. Studios, why? They're pushing it in the theater, but I would think that they wouldn't want you to have 3D TVs because they would want you to force you to come to the theater.
I always thought that too, and I was very surprised. It's not true. They want to have 3D in the home as well. I just got a DEG, a Digital Entertainment Group report that said 40 3D Blu-ray titles out for the buying season this year.
Okay, 40.
40, which is 10 times as much as we've had up till now.
But it's out of like 10,000 movies.
Well, sure, of course.
let's be realistic.
Another guy on that conversation said no, he thinks it'll be 100% by in 5 years, and not because everyone wants 3D, but because manufacturers are just going to put it into their TVs anyway. And
right. I think that's clear. They're not waiting to see if we want to buy it. They're just doing it.
No, they're just doing it.
Although they are, again, charging a premium. If it were the same price, I could say, oh, yeah, we'll get it just in case.
Right. Right. And that will happen because, as with all digital technology, we know it drops tremendously once you start stamping things out. I've always said that digital technology drops in high-quality digital technology drops in price as you stamp out millions and millions of chips. High-quality analog technology never will because it's always inherently expensive.
So plasma, if you can afford it and you really want the best home theater experience and you can darken the room.
Yeah, the main point there is light control. See, plasma... LCD suffers from a number of problems that plasma doesn't, and LCD manufacturers have addressed those problems. They've solved them, in some cases by a Band-Aid that causes other problems, but plasmas don't have those problems to begin with. Black level is one of them. Motion blur is another one.
Yeah, see, now Lisa loves sports and action movies, so she might not like sports in an LCD.
That's right. That's right. Now, on LCDs, the way that they got around that problem was they created what's called 120 hertz or 240 hertz LCD TVs. And what that does is it takes the 60 frames that you're getting in per second, and it synthesizes new frames in between them, calculating where objects in motion would be in those new frames. So it does sharpen up the motion detail quite a bit. But it causes another artifact, which is often called the soap opera effect.
It looks a little plasticky.
It looks plastic. It looks video-y.
Yeah.
And this is a big problem with movies. Movies are shot typically on film.
At 24 frames a second.
24 frames a second. And here
so they're already up-converting them.
Exactly. But then you up-convert them even more, and they look like they were shot on video like a soap opera.
Yeah, and I don't want that. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, this is going to be one of my poll questions. I've just started a new feature on UAV, on ultimateavmag.com, which asks important questions that people feel strongly about, and this is going to be one of them. It's how important, how much does, well, is frame interpolation, which is the technical term for this, a godsend or the devil's spawn? And people feel strongly about it.
As with all these questions, though, it's not black and white. I mean, they're pros and cons. So, and the same thing with plasma LCD.
That's right. So if you have, the basic question is, if you have a lot of ambient light, you watch during the day, you have big plate glass windows or whatever, and you can't control the light very well, an LCD might be a better choice because it's brighter. It puts out more light than a plasma, which is one reason why LCDs fly off the shelves at retailers when plasmas don't, because they look brighter.
They look better in the store.
Exactly. Now, you know, your living room, hopefully, is not a showroom floor, which is super brightly lit.
Well, it's funny because when I came into the club with this brand new TV, I looked at it, I said, ooh. And I looked at the settings, and it was set for vivid.
Yes.
Which is the setting they do in the store to make it look better in a brightly lit environment.
Correct.
I immediately moved it to movie.
Good for you. That's exactly what you need to do.
Looks a lot better.
That's exactly what you need to do, and that's exactly what anyone who buys a new TV needs to do. If they do nothing else in terms of adjusting the picture or whatever, you go into the menu. There's a parameter called picture mode, or sometimes just mode, and it's gonna, out of the box, it's gonna be set to vivid or dynamic or super bright. You know, put on your shades, and you want to move that to, you want to change that to movie or cinema, which is the typical best setting, and it's going to look dimmer. And for a moment, you might
initially you go, ooh,
that's kind of dim and dull, but give it a minute. You know, just let your eyes get used to it, and it's going to be a much more accurate, much better looking picture in the long run, and it's not going to also, wear a plasma in particular, if you drive a plasma really hard in vivid mode, you know, it's going to wear out. It has phosphors, and it does have a finite life, and it's going to drive it a little harder than it needs to be. So that's another reason to do it. If you have good light control, and really, if you have good light control in your room, and or you watch mostly at night or whatever, then I generally recommend plasma. I just think it looks better. It doesn't have the inherent problems that LCDs do and have now corrected by Band-Aids one way or another. Then that's the way to go. If you are going to get an LCD, absolutely, if you can afford it, an LED illuminated LCD is the way to go.
Bill's in Pasadena. You're very patient. Thank you, Bill. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater guy.
Hey, it's great talking with you guys today.
Hey, Bill.
I have a question for you, Scott. Let me paint a little bit of a picture. I live in a condo with my wife. I have a 50-inch Panasonic plasma that I love. Had it for about 3 years. but we're listening to it out of the little speakers. And with movies and stuff, you know, I know it can be better. I've got a Carver Research AV receiver.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But I bought that like about 15 years ago. So I'm thinking, for simplicity's sake, should I use the Carver? I have two big Polk speakers. Should I move that over and then, you know, get the center channel? Because I've never used it for home theater. I've just been using it for stereo.
Does he even need a center channel if he's got what a great stereo? He's got Carver, Polk.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't have any HDMI, so I'm wondering, should I ditch the Carver, get something new with HDMI, or should I get a sound bar and keep it ultra simple? I mean, I'm totally confused.
He's got two important starting parts. Can't he get maybe optical or something else out of the Blu-ray player that would go into the Carver?
I'm sorry, you have a Blu-ray player, right?
No, I just have a regular DVD player. I don't have Blu-ray yet.
Okay, does that have HDMI out? The DVD player? Because more modern up-converting DVD players do. If it doesn't, then, you know...
Go into the AV receiver.
Yeah, go into the AV receiver. You won't get the...
Well, look, let's assume this. He's going to buy a Blu-ray, which will have HDMI out. Will also have optical out.
And which will not carry the full resolution the new high resolution.
So he really does want to get a new
audio.
AV receiver along with a new Blu-ray.
Well, that would be the ideal situation. Of course, it depends on your budget. Then there's the question of the speakers. You have these two big Polk speakers, which are fine. You don't need a center. There's something you can do called phantom center, which you don't do anything.
I just have two speakers and I never even notice. It sounds fine to me. The voices are coming out of their mouths. Maybe my brain's doing it, but
your brain is doing it.
Yeah.
That's what's called the phantom center technique, because really the voices are somebody in the center of the screen. The voices are coming out both speakers equally. Your brain says, "Oh, it's in the middle." Yeah, exactly.
That's called stereo. It's called stereo imaging. Left, right, center. You don't need 5. Is 5.1 a gimmick? Come on.
No.
Come on, say it is.
No, absolutely not. I refuse to say that.
All right, Bill, hang on. We'll finish up this conversation and talk about what these sound bars do.
Yeah.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson, our home theater expert from Ultimate AV Magazine. Scott Wilkinson's here, home theater expert from the Ultimate AV Magazine. He's the editor-in-chief there. And, you know, somebody was saying in the chat room we should talk about audio as well. And we are right now. We're talking about the sound bar with Bill in Pasadena. So Bill is obviously an audiophile. He's got Polk speakers and a Carver amp. I mean, that's this audiophile grade stereo system.
It is, and a soundbar is not going to be up to that level.
Even a good Polk makes soundbars.
Polk makes soundbars. They make great soundbars.
But not as good.
Yeah, not as good as these standalone speakers. I mean, the soundbars all have, 2-3-inch drivers in them.
Right.
Now,
some of them have subwoofers.
Some of them have separate subwoofers, and I certainly recommend that. You were saying before that you wanted a subwoofer for enhanced bass, and you really do, especially with movies. Movies have a lot of low-frequency content. Yeah, explosions and dinosaur roars and rocket blasts. And
if you don't watch movies with explosions, if you watch art films, you don't need a subwoofer.
Right.
But if you watch movies with explosions, and almost everybody has a dinosaur or two nowadays in their movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to sound bars. I'm sorry?
Are you saying since the Carver system, like I said, is about 15 years old, I mean, HDMI didn't even exist back then. Are you saying I should probably replace it maybe with a more modern, like a Denon or something like that?
Well, you certainly could, but you could also use the Carver. Now, it's 15 years old. I don't know if it has analog in, or even it probably has optical in, right?
Yes, it does, yeah.
Okay, and what about multi-channel analog in, like a 5.1 analog input?
That's a good question.
Okay,
I believe it does, but I can't confirm that.
Yeah. That would be the only way you could get the full high-resolution audio off of a Blu-ray player. And you need to get a Blu-ray player that has multi-channel analog outputs in order to connect to those multi-channel analog inputs on that receiver.
So when you do HDMI, which is the default way to connect now everything, it's a digital connection. It's almost like putting your AV receiver, TV, and everything else on a computer network where it's sending the data. And so when you play back the Blu-ray, no matter what kind of sound you want from the Blu-ray, it can send that data to the receiver.
Absolutely.
The problem he's going to have with this Carver is it probably doesn't understand most of those formats, right?
Well, which is why I'm suggesting if you want to hear the full full advantage of Dolby True HD and DTS HD soundtracks.
It's not going to come across that
yes,
optical.
it is.
Oh, it is.
Not across optical. No, not across optical.
So,
but it is across analog because it's going to get decoded in the player.
So the DVD or the Blu-ray player decodes it.
Yes.
So it's most of these are capable of doing it if it has that 5 channels.
If it has that 6 channels out, 5.1 out.
So in other words, it does the 5.1 decoding.
Correct.
And then you send it to your amp for amplification only.
Correct.
It's an analog signal now coming into the amp.
That's correct. Now, it requires 6 wires to go from the Blu-ray player to the HDMI is much, much easier. If you don't mind not hearing the absolute perfect best sound you can get, using optical, as Leo suggests, is perfectly fine.
You'll get digital sound into the carver, but the carver doesn't understand all these new Dolby formats and so forth. So it can only get the standard stereo, basically.
Right, and it will automatically. If all you're sending is optical, it'll only send
left, right.
Well, 5.1.
Oh, it will send 5.1.
Yes, but lossy. The compression, the audio compression.
But will the carver understand it?
Yeah, probably. If it has an optical, now 15 years. Yeah, I would say probably. I'd have to look at it specifically, but.
So you understand what we're saying, Bill, is that your receiver has to understand how to decode what it's getting from the Blu-ray to play it back.
Right.
It probably doesn't. Does it have 5-channel sound? It only has stereo sound out, right?
No, it's a 5-channel.
It does. Oh, well, then it will understand it.
It will understand
sure.
standard regular Dolby Digital and regular DTS, what's called core.
So
DTS.
does he tell the Blu-ray to do that, or does it do it automatically?
It will probably do it automatically.
Okay.
The answer to the question of the sound bar, though, is, in a small space, and you said you and your wife live in a condo, right?
Yeah, it's condo. Where the couch is situated from the plasma, we're probably sitting maybe 10 feet away.
Uh-huh.
And I can't blast the place because, again, I have a common wall, so I can't be really. I don't want to turn it into a movie theater, but I'd like at least 3 channels. But you're saying I probably don't even need a center?
You don't need one. No. Now, if you want to get people say that sound is half of the 50% of the movie experience, and I agree, it is. And people mix movies to the audio for movies to really take advantage of surround. Some people in the chat room are saying, "Oh, there aren't very many movies with anything in the back channels," and in some cases that's true, but in other cases it's really not. And there are things flying around the room. One of the features that we have on Ultimate AV is called Ultimate Demos, and in that, our movie reviewer, David Vaughn, specifies particular scenes that says, listen to this surround sound. Things are flying all over the room. So it really is a good thing to have for the immersive experience, and that's really what we're talking about with home theater, is you want the immersive experience. You want a big picture. You want surround sound. Sound bars can get you a fair part of the way towards surround sound by providing the front 3 channels, front, left, right, and center, and then providing a pseudo surround either by bouncing sound waves off your walls. If you have a kind of a closed room, a rectangular room, a lot of them do it that way. Others use phasing and other weird tricks. The Polk is one that you don't need walls to reflect the sound off of to get a surround sound effect. Now, you're not going to hear things behind you, really, which you will with real speakers, real surround speakers. But the sound bars are really pretty good these days at giving you an immersive or a semi-immersive experience. Polk is a good brand. Yamaha is a good brand. Marantz is a good brand. So I would say that would be one good way. But you certainly do want a subwoofer, absolutely. Okay. What are the Polk speakers that you have?
They, they're tower speakers. I don't know the model number of them, but they're pretty beefy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the amp, it's the AV405. I just can't remember the name of the receiver.
More with Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guru, coming up. Stay right here.
Home theater extravaganza.
Kind of a departure, but we talk about tech, all kinds of tech, and home theater is one of them. In fact, nowadays home theater, that TV is a computer. It's often pretty technical. The connections, as you can tell, as we've been talking for the last hour. If you've been listening, Scott Wilkinson is the editor-in-chief of the Ultimate AV magazine. He's also a columnist for Home Theater magazine and an expert on both sound and video, which is nice. We got some more sound calls for you. In fact,
Let's go.
probably get to the sound call. Well, we're gonna interpose it with a video call, but we'll get another sound call. Mike wants to know about best amps for his Bose speakers. But before we get to Mike, Eric in Garden Grove, he is buying his first high-def TV. And
all right.
you couldn't have timed it better. Hi, Eric. Leo Laporte, the tech guy with Scott Wilkinson.
Hey, Leo. Hey, Scott. How are you guys?
Great.
We're doing great. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I got three TVs in front of me. I mean, on the website, and I can't decide. I have a Sony Bravia 40 inches LCD, and the model number is KDL 40EX400. That's an LCD, and it's for $599. And then another two Samsung. These are plasma. One is 50 inches, and the other one is 50 inches also. But the only difference is one is 1080p and the other one 720p.
Oh, great.
And the price difference is the 1080p is $849 and the 720p is $699. And this is for my bedroom, so I can decide what will be the best choice.
Is the LCD, the Sony LCD, illuminated by LED? Can you tell that? It is not.
No.
And can you control the light in your bedroom?
Oh, yes.
And how far away are you from the TV when you're watching in your bedroom?
Not so far. Probably 6 feet.
Well, believe it or not, a 50-inch TV would be just about the right size. A 40-inch would seem pretty small, ultimately.
Okay.
Also, if you can control the light, plasma is very good. Samsung is great for plasma. As far as 720p versus 1080p is concerned, this is another perennial question. And if you're far enough away, you can't see the difference in detail between the two. However, most content, high-def content, is 1080. It's either 1080p from Blu-ray or 1080i from broadcast HD TV on cable or satellite or over the air, wherever you get it. So the answer to that, my answer to that is you want to get 1080p if you can, because then you avoid what are called scaling artifacts. If you watch HD TV on a 720p set, it has to scale it down to 720p. That could result, doesn't always, but it could result in what are called scaling artifacts, softness, some jaggies, things like that. So I would probably recommend for you the 1080p Samsung Plasma if you can spend the extra bucks.
All right. Got it. That was my only question.
Great. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Got it.
Mike in New York. Now we're going to talk Bose. Hey, Mike. Leo Laporte, the tech guy with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater guy.
Yes, good afternoon. I own a vintage phase linear 400 power amplifier.
Very nice.
Vintage Bose 901 Series 2 speakers.
We were just talking about that.
Man, taking me back to college.
Now, I would like to hook it up to my TV, but unfortunately I have a Sansui LCD TV, and they're telling us that we cannot disconnect the sound. We cannot disconnect the internal to provide external sound.
So you're going to always hear the Sansui speakers.
I'm not sure why that is. I mean, what's your source device? Are you just using the TV's own tuner, internal tuner?
Yes, sir. I would like to hook up external power.
Well, okay. Does the TV have an audio output?
Yes, it does, but Sansui says that even with a DAC, we cannot do it. They
Okay,
won't
so
allow it.
You can't go into the Sansui's menu system and say, disable internal speakers.
No, cannot do that, sir.
Well, then I don't know what to tell you. I would say in that
Here's
case,
how he would do it. He would stop using the Sansui tuner, right?
right, and buy a TiVo or
either buy a new TV or
right.
buy if you've got, do you have cable or satellite, or do you have a TiVo? Because any of those will have a tuner in them,
Right.
And just have that go into video one.
of your well, you have
Turn the Sansui all the way down. Take the audio out of this external box.
Now wait a minute. The phase linear amp is just a power amp, right?
Just the power
Oh,
amp.
you need a preamp.
Then
too.
you need a preamp or a receiver.
I have a preamp.
Oh, what do you
I
have?
A Gemini.
Okay. Does it? It has multiple inputs, right?
Yes, full inputs.
Yeah. Okay. So you take that. You get either a cable or satellite. Do you get
in other
cable
words,
or satellite?
we don't have to ask him any more questions. Just disintermediate the TV tuner.
Right.
Just use the TV as a display.
Correct.
Which is what most modern setups, home theater setups are doing. They're not using the TV as a TV. They're using it as a display hooked up to something else that's doing the tuning, whether it's the cable, satellite, or TiVo.
Correct.
And if you do that, then you control the audio because you turn the audio down on your TV.
Exactly.
And you get the audio into your speakers.
Correct.
From whatever this tuner box is. So stop using it as a TV or buy a better TV. Those are pretty old TVs.
Yeah.
Laura, Burbank, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi there, Leo and Scott.
Hey, calling from my hometown.
Yeah. Hey, look, I've got an Onkyo dual zone receiver, but when we use the second zone outside, it shorts out the receiver and the whole receiver shuts down.
Ouch.
Yeah, so we can't use it. I mean, we can't use the second zone.
Huh. Now, when you say short out, does it happen all the time or just when it's raining? Or
No, all the time.
Huh.
So we were able to use outdoor speakers for about a year. And I don't know, a couple years ago, just, if you
sounds like it's broken.
It sounds like it's broken. It could be that the cables that went outside got corroded.
Receivers have fuses in them, don't they?
Some of them do.
They're designed in a case like this. Let's say there's a short somewhere to cut out, to protect themselves.
Yeah, because you don't want them to burn up. There is some current running through them because they have amplifiers in them.
So maybe that's what's going on.
It could be. It could be. I'm thinking if it's the outdoor ones and it worked for a year or two, maybe something got wet. That's what I'm thinking.
And the receiver's just saying, I'm not going to go there.
I'm not going to go there. Yeah, right.
I don't think so. You've got rainwater.
So what should she do? It sounds like either repair it or buy a new one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would say.
Jerry, Toronto, Canada. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Jerry.
How you doing, guys?
Scott Wilkinson's here, our home theater expert.
Hey, Jerry.
Yep. How you doing? My two favorite shows on my favorite network. I must be in heaven.
I should mention that as long as you bring it up, that Scott does a great podcast for home theater geeks. It's called Home Theater Geeks.
Theater Geeks.
and it's available. He does it Monday, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern Time at live.twit.tv. So you can watch live, but of course it's a podcast, so you can download it anytime. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/HTG.
Home Theater Geeks.
And you can subscribe on iTunes, Zune Marketplace, anywhere the fighter podcasts are sold. Except it's free. So what can we do for you, Jerry?
Okay, my question is, up here in Toronto, a speaker line called Martin Logan just started selling, and it's called the Motion Series of Speakers. Has Scott ever heard of this company or the series?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Martin Logan is one of the absolute premier makers of what are called electrostatic speakers.
Now, you were mocking these.
I don't think I quite go that
not mocking
far.
them, not mocking them. But in the break in the chat room, asked you about electrostatic
speakers, magnaplaners.
Some audiophiles adore these.
I love them. They just love them. I know a lot of people who just love them.
So is it a matter of taste?
Partly that. They're very clean sounding. They're very transparent sounding. Some people have a problem with the fact that unlike regular, quote-unquote, regular speakers, which have these discrete circular drivers that give you more or less kind of a point source of sound, these magnetic electrostatic speakers have big diaphragms that vibrate and send out the sound in a big wave. And some people complain that the imaging, this pinpoint specificity of sound is not as apparent on electrostatic speakers. But then there are a ton of audiophiles who swear by them, so I'm not going to diss them. I don't have them myself. They tend to be kind of expensive. But Martin Logan is certainly a premier maker of this type of speaker. And they're very well regarded.
Audiophiles are interesting. They, it's almost religious because you can't sometimes hear the differences. They can.
Yes, they're called golden ears.
I can't because I'm ancient, and you're as ancient as I. So
Yes.
both of us have lost the high end. Maybe we don't hear the spaciousness that they hear, or something like that.
It could very well be. Yeah, exactly right.
Sometimes it's specious logic where you say, well, I have these magical golden cables that cost $10,000, and I know they're making a difference. Maybe if you did an A/B comparison with somebody who didn't know you had spent $10,000 on those cables, you wouldn't hear the difference. They wouldn't hear the difference.
This is a huge argument, and certainly an area of topic of conversation.
How much of it's psychological?
Exactly. If you just spent $10,000 on cables, you better damn well hear a difference.
You've got a vested interest in hearing a difference.
Exactly right. Now, there's a great story about James Randi. You know this?
The Amazing Randi.
Amazing Randi, who is actually a debunker of myths, and we'll talk about that.
He's offered a fairly large reward for anybody who can prove, and no one has taken him up on this, including the big companies that make these cables.
Well, there's a story about that.
Oh, we'll talk about it when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. He's next, Ron in Missoula, Montana. Ron, welcome. Leo Laporte and Scott Wilkinson.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi there. Nice to talk to you guys. So I've got this home theater PC, and I just put in a Blu-ray OEM drive, so it doesn't come with any software. Any recommendations on what software to play the Blu-rays on the home theater PC? I'm using Windows 7, by the way.
Yeah, I must admit, this is not an area that I'm very familiar with, so I would be not really... I would certainly not be authoritative on this subject.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, obviously Windows Media will not, even on Windows 7. You have to get a program to do that. And there are a number of programs, all of the big players who play back Blu-ray, playback DVDs have a Blu-ray version. Power DVD does, Cyberlink. So, I haven't, be honest with you, I had a Blu-ray player in my Dell Studio 17, and I'm trying to remember. I think I did use, in fact, Power DVD, a PowerLink DVD, and I thought it was pretty good. There are little issues that come up playing back Blu-ray. For instance, this computer had an HDMI cable, but hooking it up to a HDMI TV, I wasn't able to play Blu-ray out because it didn't have HDCP. So there's copy protection.
Yes.
There's all sorts of issues. You do want if you're playing it back on a computer screen, you want a computer screen that can do at least 1,080 lines from top to bottom. Most good screens will do something like 1920 by 1200 is very common. I think PowerLink is good. I mean, that's the only one I've used, but I thought it was very good. Nero has a program that does playback. Our chat room says Total Media Theater 3 works seamlessly with Media Center. So if you're using Media Center, then Total Media is probably a good choice. I think they all pretty much do the same thing, Ron.
I would think so.
My Dell, I'm surprised, Ron, that your computer, if it came with a Blu-ray player, didn't come with some form of playback, even if it's a limited edition.
A Blu-ray player.
Oh, you installed it yourself?
A drive.
I installed an OEM.
Got it. And the OEM didn't come with a disc with stuff?
Did not come with any software or anything.
HP and Dell both use Cyberlink, but there's some other choices as well. You can, in every case, they have, or at least almost every case I know of, they have a 30-day download. I would try it. See which one you like.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Ron. Chat room's very helpful in that kind of thing.
You bet.
We got a lot of people in the chat room. You could join us there by going to our website, techguylabs.com. Click the chat link, and you'll be thrown into our chat room with 600 other rabid fans.
Geeks.
They don't bite, I hope. Line 5 is Donald in Riverside. Donald, welcome. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater guy.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I've got a Samsung Plasma 50-inch, and for a while there, I was only using one of the HDMI ports on the TV. It currently has two, and I was just taking the HDMI out of my PS3 and putting it into the satellite box and vice versa. So I finally went out and bought another HDMI cable, but now that I've plugged in the HDMI cable to the second port on the back of the TV, I'm finding that it's nothing seeing the or the TV is not seeing either of the units, either the PS3 or the satellite. So I thought it was maybe a bad HDMI that I bought. Switched the cable, switched the ports, switched the devices. Anything on port 1 and any cable on port 1 works. So it seems to be my HDMI port on the port 2 is not working. I was wondering, is there a setting that needs to be on, or could the port have went bad? The TV's probably 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, it sounds to me like input 2, HDMI input 2 is broken. I don't. You've done all the troubleshooting things that I would recommend, which is trying different cables into input 1 and 2, trying different devices on input 1 and 2. If everything works on 1 and nothing works on 2, sounds like the input on number 2 is bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be it.
That's got to be it.
You did a good troubleshooting job.
Yes.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Here's somebody in the chat room sent me a link to dancecentral.com. That's that dancing game that I was talking about for the Xbox Kinect, where you dance. And the first few times you do it, you probably don't realize there's pictures being taken of you as you dance, which you then see at the end. Somebody posted on the Dance Central forum, I was trying out the Kinect Dance Central game and I was getting hot. So I took off my clothes. I had no idea the game was going to take a bunch of pictures of me while dancing with no clothes on. I could go back and look at these pictures, but how do I delete them? Help! Now, I got to tell you, you post something like that on the internet, you're not going to get a lot of serious help. Actually, the first few do tell her that, or him, I'm not sure, that he or she can delete them after they exit out the game. But if a couple of people kind of yanked her chain, somebody said, actually, Dance Central automatically sends the pictures to an online server where the photos can be viewed by the registered harmonics community. Not true. Those pictures are private, at least initially. They're private. Let's go to the fun. It is kind of stunning when you see how silly you look. It's fun. I think a lot of this is just fun. You know, the families will laugh at each other and things like that. Alfred's on the line from Southern California. Hi, Alfred. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Thank you for taking the call. I appreciate it. I hope you haven't discussed this topic before, but I'm sure you might have delved into it a little bit. I'm interested in purchasing, my wife and I, the iPhone 4.
Yeah.
And Christmas is coming up, and I'll possibly be getting her the iPad for Christmas. But I want to get her the iPad, the one that you don't have to purchase their internet package, and I was wondering if she keeps her iPhone handy near the iPad, if we'd be able to tether one to the other to get internet reception.
So tethering is something that's been a little controversial on the iPhone. From the day the iPhone shipped outside the U.S., you could tether it. Tethering means using the iPhone's 3G internet connection to connect computers or other devices. And since the iPhone has both 3G and Wi-Fi, it would be cool, wouldn't it, if you could make it a Wi-Fi access spot using the internet from the phone?
Uh-huh.
You can, for a price. You end up paying no matter what. So AT&T didn't turn it on for a while. They have recently turned it on, but it costs money for the tethering capability. I'm not sure. How much, chat room, does the tethering cost from AT&T? I think it's $20 or $30 a month. It's cheaper than well, I don't know if it's cheaper. It's probably close to the same cost it would be to put a 3G. It's $20. Okay, but for $20 you can get 3G on the iPad.
Yeah, exactly. So either way, I'm paying that.
You're gonna look. AT&T's not stupid. They're not gonna give you a loophole like that. Now it's interesting. If you buy an Android phone, that tethering is built into Android, and in some cases, T-Mobile in particular, they don't charge you for it.
Yeah.
So,
right.
you know, I mean, but yeah, so my suggestion would be so that you don't have to have the iPhone and the iPad sitting next to each other, you just get the 3G iPad.
The extra, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's $120 more to put 3G on the iPad, but you get one other feature that's very nice, which is you get a GPS in the iPad. So you can use it. And there's some really, I tell you, the GPS software in the iPad is just excellent. There's some really good choices. The one I recommend and use is MotionX GPS. And the iPad screen is so big, and it's got turn-by-turn directions. I mean, it just really works great. Now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to ask the chat room. Fair says he's not sure if you can do Wi-Fi when you do tethering with the iPhone. You might have to use a USB cable. I don't know if that's the case or not. I would talk to AT&T. Verizon is offering an iPad, a very weird package. It's an iPad that does not have 3G or GPS in it. It's a standard Wi-Fi iPad. And for $120 more, you get a MiFi, which is a device that does exactly what you want to do. It does not a phone. It just gets 3G access and turns it into a Wi-Fi access point. So, but it will only work with the iPad. So it's kind of a strange solution. You can jailbreak. I hesitate to even say this. You can jailbreak the iPhone and turn on tethering. So it's possible. Just look, I'm scanning through the chat room. If you want to join us in the chat room, by the way, great place to get kind of more detailed answers because these guys are pretty geeky, and just to have fun, like kids in the back of the class. Go to our website, techguylabs.com, and there's a chat link and there's a view live link, so you can watch the video as well. Let's go to Houston. George is in Houston. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, George.
Hey, how are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm having a problem with two CD burners that I recently bought from two different locations. They're two different brands. I put them in two different computers using two different operating systems, but they're giving me the same problem. That is, when I burn a CDRW disc, CDRW 700 disc, I burn it at 10x speed. I can't play them back, those discs back on certain players, which I've had no problem playing them back before. Now, if I were to take that same exact disc and burn it at a lower speed, then they'll play back.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Why would that be?
And then I don't have the same. There's something called a CDRW 650 disc, I think. Then I don't have that problem, but it's only with the CD 700.
It's the 700s, okay. Well, so the difference between a 650 and 700 is, of course, one holds 650 megabytes, one holds 7. One has the tracks are a little bit tighter. You know, the problem is that some CD players have trouble with rewritables because they're not as luminant. And I suspect it's just an issue, you know, with these particular players. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Just to kind of circle back around on the CD burning issue. CDRWs and CDRs use a different technology than a regular CD. They use die change technology on the CDR, and they kind of do this weird melting thing on the CDRWs. And they're just not as luminant, not as bright. So older CDs or CDs that maybe aren't as good, CD players, sometimes don't. The laser says that's not bright enough. There's something, and it kind of refocuses, and it just has a hard time playing it back. CD 700 is not a standard. It's 650 is the standard. 700 kind of plays fast and loose with the standard. Most CD players can handle that. But if you find a CD player that can't handle the CD 700s, and or can't handle a CD that's burned at a higher speed. I'm not sure why a higher speed would make a difference, except that perhaps the tolerances are just a little bit looser. It's just a CD player that isn't quite as capable. And so my suggestion is, if you're burning CDs and you want it to play in all your players, you know what the answer is. Burn 650s and burn it slower. That's all. Julian in Los Angeles. Hey, Julian. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good morning, Leo. Real quick, I just wanted to give you a thanks for letting me plug the Best in Tech Assistive Technology Conference a few weeks ago.
How did that go?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
It was great.
Okay.
We had over 200 people, and it was a great success. So
fantastic.
Thank you for letting me plug that on your show. I've recently crossed over to the dark side and gotten the iPhone. And as a visually impaired person, it's great because it's got the built-in accessibility.
I think of all the smartphones, it's probably the most accessible.
It is. Out of the box, it is one of the best, that's for sure. So I had a couple of questions. Number one, I wanted to know if you knew of a good Google Voice app for the iPhone. Or are there any?
Well, this was a bone of contention, a point of controversy. Google was refused, remember, last year. Apple said no, and they pulled a couple of Google Voice apps, GV Plus and another one, out of the marketplace. Then about a month ago or 2 months ago, Apple relented. Could be had something to do with the fact that the FTC was investigating them. I don't know, but maybe. Google had already given up. Google said, well, we'll solve this. we'll just make a web-based version of Google Voice, which works on the iPhone, and it does. If you go to Safari, use Safari and go to voice.google.com, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of Google Voice, and Apple, by the way, never did, they say we never rejected the Google Voice app. We just never approved it. Okay. And, there were all sorts of, there was an investigation and all sorts of stuff. And I think, there are a couple of choices. There's GV Connect, which is $2.99. And then there's GV Plus. That's the one I've used. I'll be honest, I don't see any reason to say they're better than the web-based Google Voice. None of them are as good as Google Voice integration on Android, and that kind of makes sense. Android is a Google operating system.
Right.
And one of the things that I love about Android, in fact, I think it's one of the selling points on Android, is that the Google Voice application not only is available, but integrates into it so that it becomes, if you choose, your answering machine, voicemail. You don't use the carrier's voicemail, you use Google Voice. It has all the functionality of Google Voice. You get the texts, you get the emails. I really like it.
I've done that as well. That's basically my cell phone voicemail is a Google Voice, and it works very nice.
So it's a little disappointing, I understand, when you get to the Apple, and it doesn't have that tight of an integration.
Right.
And that's just the way Apple is. Apple, like I said, Apple refused it. Well, I'm sorry, they didn't approve it for so long that Google just gave up. I'd say GV Mobile Plus is the one I would recommend of the two. I think it's also a couple of bucks. It's not expensive.
Okay. I'll check that out.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, we briefly got into this conversation the last time we spoke about jailbreaking. I kind of want to know what sort of features do you get access to when you jailbreak a phone as opposed to not jailbreaking one?
Really, all jailbreaking means is that you can use other sources for your software. In other words, you can install non-Apple approved software on your phone. It is completely legal, despite the name jailbreak, which kind of implies that somehow you're doing something illicit. It's completely legal to do. Apple says, well, all right, but it might void. It might. They don't even say it does. They say it might void your warranty, though. So they hate it, but there's nothing you can do about it. And this is, I think that Apple's tight control of the iPhone is for two reasons. One, there's a legitimate reason. Look, we approve every application, so you can trust as an iPhone user that if you don't jailbreak it, if you just buy from us, that you're going to get a certain level of quality. You get some of the better fart apps, and maybe some improved security. Although that might be moot as well because Apple's doesn't have the means to test thoroughly every application. But certainly some consistency in user interface, things like that. The disadvantage is it's Apple's way or the highway. So jailbreaking gives you kind of a third. It lets you get to other stores, the chief of which is Cydia, C-Y-D-I-A. But I don't find any of the applications. You can browse the Cydia store and the other iPhone stores without jailbreaking. Look on the web first and see what you see. I don't find there's anything particular in there. The few of the compelling reasons are one we talked about just a few minutes ago, tethering. Most of the stuff there is exactly what Apple says. It's kind of not as good. It's kind of low rent.
So it doesn't let you tweak anything, because one thing I've noticed with this thing is it eats up batteries like crazy. And even though this one's supposed to have better battery life than the older ones, I'm just thinking.
Well, if there were a way to make the iPhone have better battery life through the settings, Apple would have done it. Believe me.
Yeah.
iPhone 4 has the best battery life of any iPhone in my experience.
Right.
I jailbroke my 3GS, and I have not jailbroken the iPhone 4 just because it's like I didn't see that much value to it. You will, by the way, see probably some accessibility disadvantages in jailbreaking.
What I've seen is, for example, that Cydia store, the app for it right off the bat, it's not accessible with
right. Right.
That's
so there you go. I said there were two reasons for Apple to do this, and one is, of course, this quality of product. The other, of course, is it's good for business. They control everything from A to B, A to Z. You have to buy it from Apple. They get 30% cut of everything. They want to do this on the desktop too, by the way. This possibly is the future of Mac computing, is that Apple approves everything. And if you want to install something that's not Apple approved, you have to kind of go around Apple. There's an advantage and there's a disadvantage, but I think I can't. In the case of the iPhone, I don't think it's worth jailbreaking it. I really don't.
Well, that unless you want to use it with a different carrier, that's a big reason.
That's something else. That's not jailbreaking. That's unlocking.
Oh, okay.
And unlocking is a much more. There's more brain surgery involved, and it's more risky. So I think often people think jailbreaking, it's a prelude, it's a precursor to unlocking, but it does not unlock it. It means if you jailbreak it, you still are using it with AT&T, you have to unlock it to use it with another carrier.
Oh, I see. So then you have to run.
There's one more step. You have to rewrite the radio software.
Okay. Understandable.
And I truthfully, I think that even gets more sketchy in terms of reliability. And in the U.S., the only other choice is T-Mobile, and I don't know if T-Mobile's better than AT&T.
Audio quality-wise, I think it is.
Really? Okay.
I think are definitely better.
You'd know that. You'd be more sensitive to that than I am.
I definitely find that AT&T's audio quality T-Mobile's audio quality is better.
That's interesting.
And I like the price of their plan. It's just T-Mobile's just a better company to do business with.
Well, I agree with you on that. I just don't think their coverage is as wide as AT&T's. So
no,
depends where you are. In some areas, T-Mobile's better. I have a T-Mobile phone. I have one of each, of course, but I use the Nexus One. The Google phone on T-Mobile is quite good. I'm very excited. Tomorrow's the day the Windows Phone goes on sale, and this is going to be unfortunately AT&T again. It looks like a great phone though. It's the Samsung Focus is the first. There will be 9 handsets. AT&T and T-Mobile at first, and then I think T-Mobile's will be the middle of this month. There'll be some Windows phones for T-Mobile from LG and Dell. And then there'll be more phones, more handsets coming out through the rest of the year. Don't expect Verizon or Sprint till next year. But I'll get in line tomorrow. You can't pre-order these from AT&T, these Windows Phone 7s. You have to get in line. So I'll get in line tomorrow morning. I'll be at an AT&T store near me. They'll say, "You again. We see you every year, but it's not June. What's the story?" "Oh, it's not an Apple phone this time. It's a Microsoft phone." They'll say, "You must be nuts. Is there something wrong with you? Why do you keep buying phones?" It's a long story. I have a problem. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Luis Oliveira at the controls there, playing the tunes. Yeah. Gina Savati in the phone booth. Changing into her Superman outfit. 8888 Ask Leo is my number. 888-827-5536 or visit the website techguylabs.com. James in Anaheim. You're next, James. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. I am having a lot of trouble finding a scanner that fits my specifications without spending thousands of dollars. And I'm a musician, and I make lots of copies, but it seems like the music that I'm copying is always bigger than 8.5 by 11.
Ah, you need a large format scanner.
Yeah, and I look at those, and they start at like $2,000 on some sites. So, but I find that I go to copy places, and I spend a lot of money there. And one of these such copy places has a perfect scanner for me, and it's not being made anymore. It's the Epson Perfection 2480, I believe.
Yeah, I love that scanner.
And so I went on the Epson site, and of course it says that
Don't
they're
make
not
that
being
one
made
anymore.
Yeah, and then I looked at their website, and I'm confused by one spec that they put on all these scanners, which is the maximum scan area, and it often says 8.5 by 11.4 is a lot of the specs.
Yeah, it's how big that bed is.
You mean the
glass that you're going to put this? Yeah, that's how big that is.
It's just I can't believe it's that's small, because I'm putting something that has at least 2 more inches than the 11 and wider than 8.5 on that bed. So I guess are all scanners about that size?
Yeah, I mean, they aren't, but you can get a large format scanner, but I'm just looking there. I guess because they figure we got you. They're going to charge you a lot of money, and it doesn't make any sense that a scanner that has 2 extra inches on the glass should be $2,000 more.
Yes,
but it looks like it is now. The Epson, the cheapest Epson large format scanner that I can see here is the GT2000. That's a mere $1,500.
Yeah, I don't got that.
I know, I don't blame you. And the funny thing is, you can get a really great Epson Perfection scanner for $100. It's just that for some reason they really want to gouge you, and this is often the case in technology. When there's a smaller market, they really get you because you don't have a choice. I'm looking at all, and I do love those Epson Perfections. That's the one I actually recommend and use myself. I think those are really fantastic scanners. Maybe somebody in the chat room knows of a large format scanner that is not hugely expensive. One suggestion is to go to eBay and get a used one.
Mm-hmm.
The Epson Workforce 1100, does that go to 9x12 or 10x13? I don't know. Let's see. You know, the chat room is a great resource for this because right now they are doing the research for me, and they're looking. The other thing you can do, there are some options. Of course, you could scan twice. You know, you could scan the first, half and half, and then stitch them together.
That's what I was going to ask. And is there a program that can piece it together?
Oh yeah, that's called stitching, and there's a lot of ways to do that. That's a printer. The Workforce 1100 is a printer, not a scanner.
And they don't make any good larger surface printer scanners for home that are affordable, probably.
Yeah. I mean, they're thousands of dollars, as soon as you get that expensive. Here's one, the Mustech, which is not a top of the line. Scan Express A3 1200. You probably don't need super quality, but this is a large format scanner, and it does 11.7 by 16.5. Is that big enough? I think that's big enough for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's on Amazon for $161. Mustech has been around for a long time doing scanners. In fact, until Epson got in the game and stole all their thunder, I think Mustech was one of the big names.
How do you spell Mustech?
Mustek.
That's exactly okay. Good.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be perfect, but it's black notes on a white background, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm copying.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah, very simple to do. I can't imagine this wouldn't be more than adequate for that.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that's
chat room again for the win. FTW, as they say. There you go. Yeah, thank you for the call. What kind of music? Are you a composer, a performer?
Yes, both. But I direct a lot of musical theater, and I'm finding myself copying and kind of rearranging things all the time. And it takes a long time to scan 12, 200-page scores.
No kidding, it would. So you'd like the document feeder too. I don't see the document feeder on this one, but that would be a big help too for you.
Yeah. I mean that would be a plus. It's not a necessity because I'm so used to. I think part of being a musician is being a professional copier.
Yeah. Another way you could have done it, I was going to suggest, but it would be better to get this Mustech, but you can use a camera, You don't have to use a scanner. You can actually, and sometimes if you're doing a lot of pages, it's faster to set up an easel and put a camera on a tripod so it's exactly parallel to the image, so you don't have any keystoning. Make sure it's very flat light, and then you snap a picture. You can go much faster than a scanner, and frankly, it's the same or higher resolution if you have a good camera. You turn the page, snap it, turn the page, snap it, turn the page, snap it, much faster.
Wow, I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing 2,400 scans, 12 times 200 pages, I think that might be worth it to set up. Just put an easel, a tripod, any point-and-shoot camera. It'd be nice if you had a remote control, because then you don't have to press the button each time. Make sure you light it, and just light it flat so there's no shadows. And then it's very easy. You just turn the page. You don't have to wait for the thing to go zzz, zzz. That'd save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks for the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. Sandy San Clemente. Hi, Sandy. Leo Laporte here.
Hi, Leo. Love your show. Thanks so much for taking my call. You said it earlier that I'm looking for a more cost-effective bundle for my daughter.
Oh, let's do some research for you. We're going to take a break for the news in the top of the hour. Stay on the line, Sandy. I will help right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We started right before the break with Sandy in San Clemente. You've got a college-age daughter.
Yes.
And you want to set her up with wireless, with internet. Don't they have internet in the college?
Yes, but she's not living on the on.
Oh, she's off campus. Okay. So you want to get the all-in-one. I got to tell you, these all-in-one packages, as far as I'm concerned, are a deal only for the company offering the package.
I figured that.
Yeah, it's convenient because, well, it's, you know, I got it when Comcast first offered it in my neck of the woods. I got it and I thought, oh, this will be good. One bill. No. In some areas, they don't even have television. So if it's AT&T, for instance, they don't have UVerse, so they'll give you Dish Network. It's like they're basically, it's a way of locking you in, but it doesn't give you any real advantage.
So should I go individually?
Yeah, I mean, you won't have many choices anyway. This is the other problem with the way, you know, phone service and internet service works in the U.S. right now. It's one of the reasons I think that we pay more than we ought to for internet service, at least, is that in any given area, there's only one cable company. There's usually no more than 2 internet companies. So you won't have a lot of choices. You'll have to find out first from her where, you know, who offers service in her neck of the woods. What city is she in?
She's in Commerce.
Okay. So I'm not sure in Commerce who the...
Right now we have Charter, and it's going to go up to $130 a month for the phone, the cable, and the
You just
TV.
want to slug them, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's going to be $360 more a year for me, and that's...
Here's what I would say. First of all, most young people today don't have a landline. They just use a cell phone.
I was worried about the landline was because of the 911. If anything were to happen, because she's living alone, she would just be able to push 911, and they would be able to say...
You're absolutely right. I'm really glad you said that. I mean, there is E911 that's required by the FCC on cell phones, but they don't... It's regional 911. It's not as fast. You're right. If that's a concern, and since you're mom, it's definitely a concern, I'd get a landline. Now you can get just basic cheapest landline service and encourage her to use the cell phones for her phone calls. Yeah. Yeah, most kids don't even know about landlines anymore.
No, you're right.
But I think
and a lot of adults do.
Yeah. I would say in 10 years, landlines will kind of start to phase out. But I do think that this 911 is very important. The other issue is if there's a power outage. Of course, cell phone works for that. But I think it's good to have both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And television, maybe you can eliminate cable, which is, by the way, the single biggest cost. And this is another thing. Kids today, they don't really care about cable so much. They watch a lot of this on the internet.
Exactly. So how do I do that?
Just get her. So really all she needs is a cell phone, a basic landline, and the best internet that you can get. Usually that's from the cable company. Charter is not great, however. So you might check with your local, you can use DSL Extreme, our internet service provider, or probably in that area it's either Verizon or AT&T. And check with them. Now, somebody's pointing out, McMahon's saying in the chat room, and this is true. Now, does she already have Charter service?
Yes, and it's coming due for me to renew it. And they says, well, we can't do any better. It's going to be $130 a month.
This is a good time to pull this. Is to say, okay, fine, I'm leaving to save money. And very often you'll get transferred to a retention specialist. And these people have the power to give you a break. So sometimes you can get a deal.
Now, is that through who?
Through Charter. Call them up and have that conversation. When they say, no, sorry, we're going to raise the rate, say, okay, fine, I'm leaving because I need less. Now, sometimes the problem with this ploy is sometimes they'll call your bluff and say, okay, see ya. But sometimes they'll send you to a retention specialist who then has the power to say, okay, we're going to cut 30% off the bill. So you might be able to get a better deal.
Do I ask for one? Do I request for a retention specialist? Because when you call, you just get any representative. And you get some that are nice, and you get some that aren't nice.
Okay, here's a good one. This is coming from the chat room also. Okay. If you go on Twitter and you tweet at Charter, that's the name of the Twitter account for Charter, and you complain, you say, these guys, what a ripoff. They're raising it to $130. This is a poor college kid. I'm pleased. And even say what you just said on the radio, which is, I'd love to find something better. What do you recommend? Now, what happens is, and this is really interesting because Twitter is not universal, but for some reason, companies really pay attention to Twitter. They've got people, Charter has people watching Twitter for somebody mentioning, now you got to mention @Charter so that they see it. And very often you'll be contacted by a retention specialist right away. Yeah, there's all sorts of ways to work this.
Okay, well, good. That's what I'll do then.
Good luck, Sandy. Yeah, I'm really glad that you're pursuing this. And I think if we all kind of see, I think what happens is they raise the rates, figure, these people are lazy, they're fat, they're sitting in front of the TV, they're not going to notice. And if people stand up and say no, eventually I think that this is ridiculous. $130? It's ridiculous. A month? A Charter used to be owned by a guy who used to be my boss, Paul Allen, one of the founders of Microsoft, one of the richest men in the world. And he spent, to build up the Charter cable network, he cheesed everybody off in the cable industry. He spent something like $2,500 per subscriber to buy cable companies. So now, you listen, this guy's got to make his money back. So how do they make their money back? Well, they're only making, if they're charging you $100 a month, that's going to take them 2 years to even get close to what he paid for you before he even starts to turn a profit. So, of course, they raise the rates to try to get their money back. He actually pretty much bankrupted that company. He's not the best businessman in the world. And everybody was a little annoyed that he spent so much per subscriber. Not my favorite. Not my favorite company, but is there let's be honest, is there a cable company we love? Unfortunately, in most cases, cable companies are the ones that have the highest speed internet capabilities, but they also charge the most. So we've just got to stand up for ourselves. I think ultimately all you'll really need is a high-speed data connection to your house. You'll get your phone, you'll get your TV, you'll get everything you need from that one pipe. And this is what scares them, because they want to sell you all this. They want to sell HBO. They don't want HBO going to you directly. Marvin in Denver City, Texas. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Marvin.
Well, hi, Leo. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling. What can I do for you?
Well, I won an iPad in a contest, and I was so excited.
Aren't you lucky? That's great.
I was. And so when I got it, of course, you turn it on, and it says you have to plug it into iTunes the first time.
Thank you, Apple.
Yeah, I know.
There's no reason for that, by the way. That's nuts.
I thought so. I thought you should just be able to turn it on and go.
Of course you should. Who has ever owned a computer that's you had to hook it up to another computer to use it?
Not me.
That's nuts. That's Apple right there in a nutshell.
So I downloaded iTunes and saved the exe file to my desktop and then installed it, and it got just part of the way through the install, and it backs out saying that it couldn't register an unknown component to the registry.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't install.
You may have this may actually be a sign that you have a problem with the registry. The registry file may be corrupt, it may be too big. It can only get to a certain size. There may be some damage to it. What I would try, though, and iTunes on Windows is ghastly.
I've Googled, and read around.
It's nightmarish.
I read Apple's forums, and everybody has this problem, and I don't understand it.
It rubs salt into the wound because Apple's requiring you to install it so that you can use their stupid iPad.
Yeah, and I'll probably never use iTunes again because, I don't
Well,
download.
here's why you might. It's the only way you can back up the iPad. So it's not a bad idea because then you can back it up. Every time you connect it, it backs up all the data. And so I would encourage you to do it, but it's annoying that Apple just really makes you do this. Here's what I would do to get iTunes to win. My experience, the best way to get iTunes working on Windows if you're having a problem is to not install. You need QuickTime and iTunes. So install QuickTime first.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's the QuickTime that's causing the problem. So if you install QuickTime standalone and see if that works fine. A lot of times what QuickTime is trying to do is to associate certain file extensions with itself and so forth. And sometimes this is what causes a problem. So try QuickTime first. You can get apple.com/QuickTime. Then once you install that, then you can install iTunes. It'll see you have QuickTime. It'll skip that part and it'll go on.
Yeah, because I tried everything. I turned off my antivirus. I had Malwarebytes running, so I turned that off. I turned off the firewall and then unplugged the internet, thinking that if I turned everything off.
It sounds like you have a registry issue. Now, by the way, you can't, if this never does work, you can't go back to the Apple Store and say, "Would you just activate this thing for me?"
Wow.
But understand, and they will, and that'll be it. But just understand, you're not now backing it up. You can do everything. You can buy music on the iPad. You can buy apps on the iPad. You don't need iTunes for that. The only thing you need iTunes for is backing it up.
Right.
But if you're willing to take the chance, I would just bring it to the Apple Store and say, activate this.
Yeah, and the closest Apple store is like 100 miles away.
Oh, that's annoying. Well, anybody with a Mac can do it for you.
But I've asked around here in this little one-horse town, and nobody even knows what a Mac is.
Oh dear. Well, you'll be the first with an iPad. They'll all be staring at you, pointing.
Yeah, well, I think you're right.
I think you'll love the iPad. I really enjoy it. It's good if you can get iTunes working because it is how you update it. It's how you back it up. But you don't have to. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Some Jason in Morovia. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yes,
hi, Jason.
hi. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, quick question for you. I'm a teacher, and we have a network that's run on PCs, and we use I can't even think. We use Novell systems, so we have lots of email programs and attendance programs and a lot of different things. Well, on our network, we are each allowed several gigs of storage, and so I have a file that's backed up by the district, and I have my Microsoft Word stuff. I teach history, so I'll make up worksheets for the kids, and they can read through the book and make little worksheets and stuff. But usually I'm doing Microsoft Word, let's say. Okay, so let's say I'm making Microsoft Word worksheets and putting pictures on them and doing some things for the kids. Well, what the pain is, I'll save it, and then I'll have to rush off after school to go pick up my daughter from school. And, if I want to work on it at home, I've got to put it on a flash drive.
You got to remember to copy it, sure. But wouldn't it be nice if you could log on to your storage at the school?
Well, yes, and so what's happening is that many of my programs for being a teacher are now net-based.
Right.
Now, the only problem with that is they crash, and you'll lose the last 15 minutes, or some of these are auto-save and some of them are not. So what happens is I've got a Mac laptop. So if I do something on my PC at work, then I got to put it on a flash drive. Then I got to put it on my
Here's what
Mac
I would
laptop.
do. You can do this for free. I don't know if the administration will let you. It might be blocked by their firewall, but I would try it. It's a service called Dropbox, Dropbox.
Okay.
Free for up to 2 gigabytes, which I'm sure is more than enough for you. If you want more, you can buy more, but use the free one. You'll put Dropbox on both your Mac and your PC, and you'll store the stuff that you want to have accessible to you in your Dropbox folder. You can have your Dropbox folder anywhere. It could be on the desktop. It could comprise your documents folder, whatever it is. Now, when you copy something to that folder, Dropbox, which is running on your PC, is automatically making a copy of it in the cloud. And when you get home, your Mac will have automatically synchronized it back down to the Mac. So you have 3 this actually is kind of a nice backup solution, too. You have 3 copies of everything. One on your PC, one in the cloud, and one on your Mac.
So if, let's say I'm on my PC in the morning and I want to open it up and I notice that I've misspelled a word or something, right?
It's there. It's local. It's on your PC hard drive. If you change that spelling, Dropbox says, oh, the file's changed. It then updates it on the Dropbox in the cloud. And your Mac, if it's on, will update it right away. Otherwise, when you turn it on and go home, it'll synchronize and it'll be up to date on the Mac as well.
So basically, are the programs launching in Dropbox itself?
No, they're not. Yeah, well, that's right. You keep your documents in the Dropbox folder. Dropbox folder is just a folder. You can tell Dropbox, I want this folder to be my Dropbox. I want this set of folders to be my Dropbox. You just pick a folder.
Okay.
So what I would say is the files that you work on in school that you want available everywhere, you just store them in a folder, a Dropbox folder. You can call it, my work. You can call it anything you want, but Dropbox keeps a copy of it locally in the cloud and on any other computer. By the way, that you have a Dropbox account on, you can even log into the Dropbox account and get the file without even having installed the software. So it's always available to you. This is a killer product, by the way. People are going crazy over it. Everybody's using it. It's a really great thing to know about.
Because I thought, I looked at Carbonite and I thought, well, that's more of the backup. Because I have.
You could use Carbonite that way, but yeah, this is more flexible. And it's free up to 2 gigs. And considering these are just Word documents, I think 2 gigs is probably plenty for you.
Yeah, it is. Now, the only bummer is, I'll download little videos, history videos to watch, or other things. So do you see it expanding in the future to be more?
It's as big as you want. You just have to pay for more. Well, I have a 50 gig Dropbox. Okay. There are other solutions. If you really start to get, I need a ton of storage, you can set up a Pogo plug which is a little bit of hardware. It's $100, and it's $100 once. You never pay for it again. You put the Pogo plug at work with a hard drive. You could put a 2 terabyte hard drive on it if you need a lot of storage. Now, everything you copy to that hard drive over the net, it's on the network. Everything you copy to the hard drive on the network is now visible to you outside the network. It's accessible to you. So Pogo plug is another very good choice. In both cases, you're going to have some, maybe have to have some cooperation with your IT guys. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for listening. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Have a great Geek Week. We'll see you next time.